Welcome to the show. This is Two for the Matinee. I'm Jake.
And I'm Sydney. So here we go with the spoiler warning because these shows and movies are about to get spoiled.
So did you watch anything besides the two movies?
Yeah, I watched The Death of Stalin.
Oh, that's right.
Which, God, if only.
Well, I mean, Stalin died, but a lot of bad shit still continued.
Yeah,
that's it was a little better, I think. It was a little better.
Well, there was like de-Stalinization, at least. There was an effort.
Yeah, it was interesting with the Soviet Union. Every time one of the leaders would die, the new guy who'd come into power would just say, like, repudiate everything the previous guy did and just say awful things about him. But then the next guy would come along and it would just be like the cycle would continue.
That was a brilliant movie. I had no idea what I was watching because I just found it on Netflix. I'm like, I'm going to watch this. And it was great.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. What did they call her? Miss Sucky Suck?
I think so. So good. I recommended it to my dad, and he watched it right after I told him. And he called me back like an hour and a half, 2 hours later. It's like, that movie was fantastic. That was great. Yeah,
I just wish that, what's his name? Who played Khrushchev?
Oh, Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, Steve Buscemi was just heavier because Khrushchev was a big man.
Oh.
A rotund man. But yeah, the cast is really good. And I like how they portrayed, was it General Zhukov as like this kind of like bro?
Yes. He was like the mad Scotsman. It was great. Yeah, that was a good movie. I enjoyed that, but I didn't really get to watch anything else. It's been a heavy news week. And I kind of wasn't, I don't know, I just couldn't get into any movies.
I watched The Stranger on Netflix. Have you come across that?
Who's in that?
It's based on a mystery thriller book, and it's about it sort of starts off with this guy. He's at his kid's soccer game, and this mysterious woman comes up to him and reveals like this dark secret about his life, his marriage.
Is it a TV show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's like an episode. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually started that. I'm only on like the very first part of episode 1.
Okay. But it has our friend, do you remember Sean Dooley? He was in Broadchurch. He's the friend of the main character.
Oh, I love the first 2 seasons of Broadchurch. That last season was not good.
Yeah, I recognized his face and I looked him up and I remembered, yeah, he was in Broadchurch.
Mm-hmm. So yes, I will get on that this week.
It's okay. I think it's like a nice distraction.
Mm-hmm.
Because we watched the first episodes one night, then the next night we like blew through 3 episodes and we had to go to bed and we're like, we got to finish it the next day. We need to know what happens.
Okay, I like shows like that. I haven't seen any good mysteries for a while, and usually that's like my go-to. I mean, I fall asleep to old episodes of Midsummer Murders. Have you ever seen that?
Well, that sounds familiar. What is that?
It's like this very long-running English TV show about this little area called Midsummer and all the bizarre murders and grotesque murders that happen in this very like bucolic place.
This is based on actual events?
No.
Oh.
No. Mm-mm. But
so they have a homicide rate that's like 100 times higher.
Oh yeah, there's like, that's the joke. They're like, the place with the highest homicide rate in the UK is Midsummer. Because it's been on for like 25 years.
Okay.
So I not all the time. For a while it was all the time, but I would go to sleep to that every night. So it would take me like 2 or 3 days to get through an episode, but I started at the very beginning and I went through like 20 something seasons and then I just started over again. And that's like my nighttime routine.
So does each season focus on a specific murder?
No, each episode is its own little contained mystery.
How long is each episode?
About an hour and 35, 40 minutes.
Oh, so it's almost like a movie.
Mm-hmm. It's very, I don't know. I enjoy it. I like falling asleep to murder.
Yeah. And the English accent, the British accent.
And the British accent. But it's just, I mean, I know it's a crime show and a mystery show, but for some reason it's so calming to go to sleep to.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm sure this was like in the countryside, right?
Mm-hmm, it's in the countryside. Yeah. But the murders are so bizarre. Like one man was like, someone shoved pesto down his throat. One guy was rolled over with a steamroller on a cricket pitch.
Is there a comedy?
No, it's not. It's like, I mean, I guess it's a darkly funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some great ways people go out.
Yeah, that does sound kind of interesting. Almost like a series of books.
It's based on books, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
We can just get into it then.
I guess we can. Where do you want to start with? My favorite year or shame?
I don't know. What do you think?
Let's start with the one that you didn't like the most.
My favorite year. I did not.
I didn't like it either.
Should I introduce it here?
You might, yeah, introduce it.
Directed by Richard Benjamin and stars Peter O'Toole, Mark Lynn Baker, and Jessica Harper. And it's about a dissolute matinee idol who's slated to appear on a live TV variety show.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
You know, I looked this movie up after I watched it, and it was well received. Mm-hmm. And Peter O'Toole was nominated for Best Actor, which I'm like, wait, what happened in 1982?
Apparently this movie is beloved by a lot of people.
And I was looking it up on Reddit, and people were, I don't know how old these people were, but I assumed they were of a certain age. They were talking about how this is like the funniest movie they've ever seen.
No, I can't co-sign on that. I mean, I did appreciate the story. The idea of the story actually on paper is fantastic, right? And I wanted to like it, but it didn't even hold my interest. I was like on Twitter for the last 30 minutes of this movie, and Jeff was watching it with me, and I rewound it 3 times. Tried to watch the ending 3 times. I couldn't even give it my whole attention, and I never do that.
Yeah, and I mean the premise, we've seen it before. Again, I don't know if this is one of like the earlier versions of the story where someone is responsible for getting someone else who's sort of crazy and uncooperative to some place or some appointment. That's the gist of it. Yeah, I mean, I like Peter O'Toole in general, but he just played it. Everything was so over the top and kind of cheesy.
Thank you. I was going to say I found it to be very cheesy, and I'm not even anti-cheese. I can go for some cheese sometimes, but this entire thing played like a really bad Hallmark Hall of Fame.
Yeah. But it seems, I think it was done on purpose. That would be my guess, because I think they were going for that aesthetic, and it was.
But I felt like the timing of everything was off. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the timing for the comedy, there's some really like heavy comedy bits that are extended that it seemed like they weren't timed properly, or they could have been edited like cleaner to make it flow better. Because it seems certain things just seem to go on too long, and they stretched out, and it's like, why can't we condense this? This can all move a little bit quicker.
Yeah, and there were a lot of characters who were sort of caricatures. Like the guy, what was his name? Cy, right? He was running the show. He had this shtick throughout the movie where he'd like be really angry at King Kaiser, sort of before King Kaiser would show up, but then once King Kaiser show up, he would just agree to whatever he wanted. And it was repeated throughout the movie, and it wasn't very funny.
No, it wasn't funny at all. There's lots of things that were repeated about them throughout the movie that weren't funny. And I thought the characterizations were kind of annoying.
Well, it was inspired by Sid Caesar and the show of shows.
And Peter O'Toole's supposed to be Errol Flynn. I got that, obviously, with the Robin Hood and the little pencil mustache. Like, who else is he going to be?
Yeah. Also, when they were watching clips of his movies, they were in color.
But Robin Hood's in color.
Oh, is it?
Technicolor, yeah.
So movies were in color, but TV was in black and white.
Right.
In 1954.
Right. I don't know when color TV became sort of ubiquitous, but they had color movies and black and white. And you know what? Like, remember last week's movie, HUD?
Yeah.
It won Best Cinematography Black and White in 1962-3, and then another movie won Best Cinematography Color.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, when did Wizard of Oz come out?
1939.
And that was in color? Or it was colorized later?
No, it was filmed in color.
So they had color for a long time at that point.
Yeah.
All right. That explains it. I'm like, that'd be a weird oversight. I mean, it had a few moments that I did laugh at, like the Jewish family dinner scene.
That was funny. With her Filipino husband, who's the guy's stepdad. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
And then they go to say goodbye, and they open the door, and it's like the entire building is there greeting him. So some of that was funny. But yeah, it's just like I was a little bored too, and I was like texting.
I think this is the first movie that we've had that I've done that where I haven't given my like full attention.
Yeah, I'm looking up the best actor nominees of that year, and we have Ben Kingsley, who won for Gandhi, and then we have Dustin Hoffman for Tootsie, Jack Lemmon for Missing, Paul Newman for The Verdict, and Peter O'Toole for My Favorite Year. And I haven't seen Missing. That's actually something I've wanted to see. I've seen all the other ones.
I haven't seen Missing either.
And well, we can compare. I think we can compare this to Tootsie because Tootsie's also a comedy, and it's kind of silly, but it's really good.
It's actually funny.
Yeah, and it's kind of over the top as far as the main character goes.
Well, even the plot of Tootsie is over the top.
So what's different?
I think the direction on this one on My Favorite Year just wasn't good because we know Peter O'Toole can act. So what was going on here that I didn't like it.
Yeah. So we're going to blame Richard Benjamin, the director.
We are going to blame Richard Benjamin, but so many people like this movie. It has like a 90-something% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know.
I wonder if the people who love it are people who saw it when it came out, who were around for the Sid Caesar show, and it was this weird like nostalgia connection.
Possibly.
I've never seen the Sid. Well, he had two shows, the Show of Shows, and I think the second one was called like the Sid Caesar Hour or something, which I didn't really know about until I listened to a podcast with, it might have been Carl Reiner or maybe an interview with him. And you look at the writers on those shows and it was insane because it was
it's like Mel Brooks, Rob Reiner, or Carl Reiner,
Woody Allen.
Woody Allen.
Yeah, and a bunch of other guys. So, I mean, this is like the greatest show ever. And I wonder if the sketches, which in the movie, in My Favorite Year, these sketches that they're performing are supposed to be funny. I didn't think they were funny. I'm guessing you didn't either. But
I didn't think they were funny at all.
Maybe they're reminiscent of the Sid Caesar sketches.
Well, and then that whole sort of plot B with the
mobster.
The mobster was like, what? Why?
You know, I actually liked the setup of that, and that whole scene in the office. I thought it was actually pretty good. Where he's like, he's miming him to piss him off. They do the thing with throwing it out the window.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, like this is plot C, I think, at that point. And it's eventually going to tie back together, I was guessing. And I was actually kind of looking forward to see how this would play into the rest of the movie. But again, it was a dud.
Yeah. And for a movie that's like maybe 90 minutes, 88 minutes. Man, it felt like it was really long.
It did. It did. Did you watch the Siskel and Ebert clip I sent you?
No, my phone died right when you sent it to me. I'm like, oh shit, and I never charged it.
Well, because I was looking for Ebert's review, I couldn't find it, but there's a website that hosts a bunch of Siskel and Ebert full episodes. In 1986, they did an episode called Lost Treasures, where it's like maybe like 10 or 15 movies, and they just do like a minute and a half about each one. This was one of it, as was Class of 1984, actually.
Well, but we like that one.
So with My Favorite Year, they both liked it, which doesn't make sense to me. Class of 1984, Siskel, who I remember I used to agree with him more. He hated 1984.
Oh, I was more of an Ebert person. Siskel, I was like, you just don't get it. Why can't you get it?
But yeah, Ebert, he picked Class of 1984 because he liked it, and Siskel didn't. But they both liked My Favorite Year, and they talked about what a great performance Peter O'Toole gave. And again, I'm just like not seeing it.
I'm not seeing it either.
Maybe it's a product of its time.
Possibly, which happens, you know. Yeah. It just didn't age well. Maybe that's what it is. Not timeless. Its favorite year was the year that it came out.
And also like the narration. You had the narration in the beginning.
And I don't even hate narration. We had this conversation before. Yeah. Like I don't even mind when you're telling me and showing me or telling me and not showing me. But it was just so like cheesy.
And it's like it was just unnecessary. Like the setup, he's like, "This was the year that changed my life." Yeah, we were gonna watch the movie, and we'd see how it changed your life. Thank you for previewing the rest of the film.
So I don't have to watch anything else.
Is this a rare double skip?
I don't think we've had a double skip before.
Well, that's because I don't think we've watched a movie that neither one of us has watched before.
That's true. This is the first time.
Yeah.
And,
this movie I would not recommend to anyone.
I wouldn't either. I mean, usually I'm kind of like, okay, well, I can find X, Y, and Z about this that maybe you might, if you're into X, Y, and Z, like, nope, there's no X, Y, and Z in this.
So skip for you.
It is. It's a skip.
All right. Well, so
changing lanes.
We think everyone involved should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, much the way Michael Fassbender is ashamed of himself. In what year did this movie come out? 2011. And 2011, Shame, directed by Steve McQueen. Michael Fassbender plays Brandon, a guy who's harboring a deep secret and pretty outrageous sex addiction.
Also starring Carey Mulligan. So here, it's interesting comparing these two movies. They have nothing in common, but I would say my favorite year is just loaded with plot points and action. Mm-hmm. Shame has much less plot and action, and yet Shame I couldn't stop watching.
Oh,
I was sucked in.
The contrast, because I watched these movies back to back. I watched them immediately back to back, and the sort of contrast is so glaring. There is so much being said in my favorite year. Nobody stops talking. Nobody really talks in Shame. Like Carey Mulligan talks, but like it's strictly like mostly visual in its storytelling. And I've seen this before, but it'd been a while. I don't think I've seen this since like maybe 2013. So I love this movie.
And the music also very good. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's setting the tone. But yeah, there's a lot of, one thing I love about this movie that I like about any movie is long takes. A lot of long takes.
I agree.
Also a lot of, like you said, not a lot of dialogue in certain scenes. It's all sort of through the emotions of the characters, through what you see on screen. And I was enthralled by it.
And I think one thing I noticed this time watching it was the intent. Everything on the screen has a meaning. Like everything is there for a reason. And so the use of color, the use of music, as you were saying, the use of mirrors, like there is a reason why Steve McQueen is putting that on the screen. And it's like, and you can tell by the way he's filming this movie that everything in it has a purpose.
Well, even the fact that it's set in New York, I think makes a difference, because one of the themes in this movie is sort of like isolation or loneliness, and then you set it in a big city that's full of people, that the city that never sleeps, and you're still so lonely, right? That like juxtaposition.
Yeah, it's good. It's good, and it's striking to look at. And that, I think this was McQueen's second film.
What was his first?
Hunger.
Also that came before this?
Yeah, also with Michael Fassbender.
And there's a lot of ambiguity about it, which I liked a lot. Mm-hmm. Like it wasn't annoying. Like the relationship between the brother and sister. It's like it almost hints at maybe. Well, we don't know for sure, but we can probably guess that they were abused as kids.
Well, they say they're like, we're not bad people. What was the quote?
We come from a bad place. Right?
We come from a bad place. And so I assume, there's some trauma, there's some abuse there. We don't know exactly the nature of that abuse, but even in the way that they interact with each other, he's abusive towards her.
Yeah, but what I was going to say is, like, for a while I was wondering, like, did they have a sexual relationship at some point? Or because like the way they are, like the first time he sees her in the movie, she's naked in the shower, and like I don't have a sister, but I feel like if I walked in on my adult sister in the shower, I would look away and give her a towel. He's just staring at her, right, looking her up and down. It was a little weird.
And arguing with her. Yeah, there's some moments where they have some intimacy where it makes you uncomfortable,
which is good as far as the film goes.
Right. Yeah. I don't know, but I sort of like the contrast in their characters, because Brandon, Michael Fassbender's character, is like so ordered, so organized, so structured, and then his sister, she's just a train wreck. Like, and you can see when she like comes in, everything that he's got just gets kind of blown up. His whole routine, which he has to maintain that routine because it's the only way that he can like live in the world with his addiction, I guess. And she kind of upsets his apple cart.
Yeah, well, doesn't she even show up with those like hospital bracelets still on? Did you see that in the beginning?
Did she have them on still?
I think she did, and they never really talked about it. But like
they showed that she made a comment about how her wrist,
cutting scars.
Yeah. and how she did that for fun when she was younger. So they've got some issues.
One thing that I sort of had a problem with, and maybe I misunderstood it, but it almost felt like he hits rock bottom where he ends up going to this like gay sex bar.
Yes.
And like that's sort of the rock bottom moment, like that and the combination of his sister trying to kill herself. It felt a little homophobic to me that for this guy, rock bottom was like fucking another man. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, I kind of see what you're saying. So he had to kind of took his coworker out on a date, and they actually seemed to have a bit of a connection, which obviously didn't work out because he clearly can't have intimacy or be sexual with someone he has a connection with. And then he sort of goes on this like sex bender from that moment on, right? Mm-hmm. Is that when that happens? Like he gets the prostitute to come in after the coworker leaves because they tried to have sex and he can't get it up. Prostitute comes in, then he's like in the bar trying to pick up this lady. And then I feel like that was just where he could go to get sex. I don't think it was homophobic. I was like, that's what's available for him right now because he's got to take whatever he can get.
Yeah, he did try to go into that other club first.
Yeah, and they wouldn't let him in, but then the gay club was across the street, and he's like, well, I got to go somewhere because I got to get off. And so he went in there.
I wonder if this was taking place today, if he would just go on some app and it'd be a lot easier.
He would. He'd go on like Tinder. Where's the one where you swipe left, swipe right?
Well, that's all of them, but Tinder was the first one.
I don't know. I've been in a relationship for like a million years.
No, that's all of them. But yeah, Tinder is the most popular one.
Yeah, so probably he definitely would probably have like a whole bunch of people he could hit up on social media.
But what is so I understand the connection where like he's not able to get it up with this woman that he has an emotional connection with. He's only able to perform when it's unemotional.
Mm-hmm, it's detached.
It's detached, but like what is that? Like that doesn't make sense in my head.
What do you mean it doesn't make
sense? The psychology of that. Do you understand it?
I don't understand it from like an analysis point, but I understand it as just like a human thing because I think maybe you're so closed off or so hurt that you can't let anyone in, but it's also you have to have this release. So the release can't come with connection because it's too painful. It might open doors. I don't know. I'm just like talking. I don't know.
Well, that's a good stab at it. No pun intended.
Because like even when his sister tries to get close to him, he always turns on her.
Yeah. And well, it's also like his coping mechanism because even at work, if something like stressed him out, he'd just go to the bathroom and jerk off.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah. So, and then you were talking about how his apartment's so orderly. So it's like maybe this idea about control. Like the one area that he's got control over is like his work and his home. Because outside of that, there's no control because he's sort of like this. He's overcome by this.
Oh, well, he's always on the prowl. Yeah, he's always on the prowl to get off.
Yeah, and so when she shows up, not only does he lose the control of his house, she fucks his boss, so he starts losing control at work. At least that's how he perceives it, and I think that ultimately leads him down this bender as well.
Well, when his sister sleeps with the boss, he like knows that his boss is kind of probably a little bit of a dick, and he can't really.
He's a married man.
Yeah obviously, so he's a big dick. He can't say anything to his sister, be like, hey, this guy's married, this guy's this, that, and the other, because it's his boss. So he kind of gets put in a position where, yeah, he has no control over any of that.
And his sister's a jerk. Why is she sleeping with his boss? That's rude.
Yeah,
staying at his house. Come on.
But she has her own issues. Like she clearly has to have constant attention.
Yeah, well, she was on the phone, remember, with right when she shows up with some guys, like, I love you so much, I'll do anything.
Right.
Let me stay with you. And then there's the scene where his boss first meets his sister. They go to a club to watch her sing, and she does a beautiful, slow, soulful rendition of New York, New York. And Michael Fassbender cries. Why do you think he was crying?
I think he was crying because he was seeing his sister, like seeing her humanity. because she's really raw and like revealing in that, and we get the entire song. It's not like it's edited or cut. Like he stays on her for almost the entire song. Well, no, the entire song. And it's like 4 minutes long. And so he gets to see her. Because before he's like kind of bitching around with her. He's kind of mean to her, you know? And now she's up there doing her thing. He's like, oh, wait, that's my sister. And she's beautiful and she's singing beautifully. And
maybe he remembers his love for him.
Yeah.
For her.
For her, yeah. I think so. There, it hits something in him. The only other time he cries is in the hotel room when he tells that girl to leave.
Does he cry?
I thought he was crying. He was sitting on the thing and then he starts crying out the window, looking out the window.
I don't know. Well, he does cry when he finds his sister covered in blood with her wrist split open.
Yeah.
I also like the bookends of that one lady that he sees on the train.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like coming on to her without saying one word. That was wonderfully shot. And kudos to both actors. I think they did a good job. I do wish though in the first instance, because they juxtapose that with him getting up and they show his dick. They show him go to the bathroom and pissing. I wish they just had that scene on the train, because it would sort of end up defying your expectations. Because like, oh, this is going to be a meet cute on the train, but then after that you find out actually it wasn't. It was just a compulsion.
Mm-hmm.
But they kind of muddied it with the other stuff.
Yeah.
Which I wish they had. But I did like how at the end he sees her again.
It's not the same lady, is it?
Oh, I think it is. I'm pretty sure it is, because she was like a redhead. She had the engagement ring on.
Was it the same lady? I mean, it makes it even more rich storytelling if it is the same lady. So I'm hoping it is the same lady.
Yeah, and that's why. I mean, if it wasn't, you wouldn't lose that much. But what I liked about it is that so his sister almost kills herself, and it feels like maybe he's gonna try to make some kind of change. And then it ends on that scene where he runs into this lady again, potentially. Maybe it's a different lady. And he's kind of doing the same thing, but he sort of stops himself, but we're not sure. And it's sort of like that spinning top in Inception.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't know what's going to happen. You kind of hope like maybe he'll like, I don't know, get some help trying to work on things.
But look, he's trying to change. Like during the whole movie, he's making efforts to change. He even throws all his porn and his computer out.
Yeah. But I mean, again, I'm not really familiar with addiction. Like I think addicts do that. They're like,
yeah,
right,
they do.
But then like 2 hours later, they're back at it.
Yeah, like he threw all that stuff out, and then he went on the date with his coworker.
Oh yeah, that's right, because that followed right after.
Mm-hmm. So that's him being like, okay, I'm going to try this. He doesn't even try to get her to go home with him. He walks her to the subway.
And that was another, like that date scene. I love that date scene. It just felt very realistic, and they were just kind of like talking, but it was a little awkward because like they ended up, it wasn't just like a cute conversation. They had a difference of opinion about like marriage and life and stuff, but there was still some sort of like underlying connection.
Yeah. And then the waiter kept coming in.
Yeah. It was, okay. So there were some like things the waiter was saying that it almost felt like he was making some like weird between the lines remarks about the woman's skin color. Did you get that at all? Because he's like, oh, Pinot, it's a red, but it's a very light red. You know, if you like light, yeah, that's a light red. And then there was that one thing, and then they kind of looked at each other awkwardly. And then there was another comment that talked about, I forgot what the waiter said, but also something about being light colored. And like the lady he's on a date with, she's like a lighter toned black woman. So, but maybe that was just like a weird coincidence. It just felt really weird to me.
I just thought he was very awkward.
Yeah,
the waiter was extremely awkward. And he didn't know any, like he kept coming back with different things on the menu that he forgot to tell them about. Like,
well, didn't he forget to tell him like the crab was in the shell or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, okay, thanks.
But there's that scene where they're walking down the street after the date, and he asks her like if she could live at any time and be any person. And he picks like 60s and a musician from the 60s. And I was wondering, why do you think he picked that?
That's a good question. Well, I think the cynical answer is because it was like free love.
That's what I was thinking too. I was thinking like, yeah, because you could be a musician or a rock star in the 60s and you could just fuck anybody.
But maybe a less cynical answer is that he has such a hard time expressing himself. Maybe he sees like if he was that musician in the 60s, he'd be able to express himself in all sorts of different ways, and he'd be more liberated.
That's possible. He is a music lover. Like that's one of the things you see. Like he has an extensive record collection, and he's always got the record player going, or the record player has been playing.
Yeah, when he comes home and he finds his sister there, she's playing I want your love. And it's an interesting choice. Well, the lyrics are very on the nose, but the tone of the song is different from any of the rest of the music in the movie.
Yeah.
It's very upbeat and pop.
Well, and it's because she picked it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I like this movie a lot.
I did too. I'm glad for the rewatch.
Yeah, and I'm glad I finally watched it because it was in my Amazon watch list, and I've been waiting for it to come up for free with Prime, but it never has. So I ended up watching it on Cinemax. So I would designate this a renter.
Oh, most definitely a renter. It's a very grown-up film. It's rated NC-17. It's very explicit, and it's a surprising movie that it was made in 2011. I think it's got some of the sensibilities of movies we like from earlier periods,
or stylistically, some of the
yes.
You know what? I totally forgot. I watched on Amazon. They have the original Italian Job with Michael Caine.
Oh, did you watch it?
Yeah, it's great. Okay. It's really, really good. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't, but I'm excited now.
And that movie, I mean, it's like after you watch it, first of all, I'm surprised this was made in 1969 because I feel like it's inspired so many movies since then. The modern Ocean's 11, I don't think it could have existed without this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you watch it, we can talk about it.
Yeah, I will watch it. I need something to watch tonight that's like not heavy.
All right, so what are we going to do next time?
Hey, join us next week when I don't know what French Twist is about. I've never heard of it.
Join us next week when we watch War of the Roses and French Twist, a French movie.
That's the twist.
That's the twist.